Alright, today we're going to review how to solve for a variable. The first thing we want to do is we want to define what the word variable means. A variable is a symbol or letter that is just holding the place of a number. So a lot of times when you see equations, there are often x's, sometimes t's, any letter, any symbol that actually represents a number. And what the goal of solving for that is to figure out what that number is. So that's what we're going to review today. The key in solving for a variable is always to do the opposite. So if it was adding, the opposite would be subtracting, or if they were multiplying, the opposite would be dividing, or if they were taking the square root, the opposite would be to square it, things like that. That's what I mean by the opposite. And you want to make sure you always do it on both sides of the equal sign. Okay, so whatever you do on one side, you have to do on the other. The exact same thing, so we can keep it balanced. So let's look at our first problem. M plus 4 equals 10. Okay, so we know this is an equation because it has an equal sign, so I can solve it. And the variable in this case is the m, or the symbol that I don't know. So in order to solve for that, I want to get the m by itself on this side of the equal sign. So I need to get rid of that 4. So they're adding 4. Remember, the key was always to do the opposite on both sides. I'm going to draw a line down my equal sign so I know what I mean by both sides. One time on this side of the equal sign, one time on this side of the equal sign. Okay? And I want to do the opposite. The opposite of adding is to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 4 here and subtract 4 here. A positive 4 and a negative 4, those cancel, just leaving us with our variable, or the letter m, and then I have 10 minus 4, and that is 6. So m equals 6. Okay? And the reason m equals 6, if you want to plug that back in, so these two are the exact same thing. They're equal to each other. So I could actually, instead of writing m, if I wanted to rewrite this equation, I could write 6 instead of the m, plus 4 should equal 10. And we're wondering if this is true. Did our solution work? 6 plus 4 is 10, and 10 equals 10. So our solution was correct. Okay? That's a way to check it. Let's go on to the next one. Negative 3h equals 12. Again, an equation because I have an equal sign, so I can solve it. My variable is h. That's what I'm trying to get by itself. Okay, so I'm going to start by drawing that line down the middle again, and we said we always want to do the opposite on both sides. So here I see a negative 3h, and I need to think it's always what's between the number and the variable. So there's no sign right here, so I'm trying to figure out what they're doing. If there's nothing there, that means they're multiplying. And the opposite of multiplying is dividing. Okay, so we're going to divide this side by negative 3. We want to divide by exactly what it was so it matches. Divide this side by negative 3. Over here they cancel or go to 1 because negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. And I'm just left with h. I still have my equal sign. 12 divided by negative 3. Well, first I think about what 12 divided by 3 is, and that's 4. And a positive divided by a negative is negative. Okay. Again, if we want to make sure that's true, we look and we know h equals negative 4. So they're the same thing. So I'm going to rewrite this equation, but just using negative 4 in the h spot. Negative 3, negative 4. We wonder if that equals 12. No sign in the middle, so that means I'm multiplying. A negative 3 times a negative 4. I'm going to go 3 times 4. First of all, that gives me 12. And a negative times a negative is a positive. So 12 equals 12. Checks out. We had the right answer. Okay. I want you, if you would like to, you can pause at this point and continue section 1 on your worksheet. If not, continue on with me. Section 2 of your worksheet has 2 steps to it. Every time we're going to be doing 2 things instead of just 1. Back in section 1 we were just doing 1 thing. Okay, so I have 2x minus 8 equals 28. Here, x is my variable. That's the letter I'm trying to solve for. Okay, I'm going to draw my line down my equal sign so I know where both sides are. And I always want to do the opposite on both sides. Okay, So I'm going to start with all my adding and subtracting symbols and get rid of those. So I have a minus 8 right here. The opposite of minus 8 is plus 8. So I'm going to do that on both sides. Here they cancel, leaving me still with 2x on this side, my equal sign. And 28 plus 8 is 36. Okay, now I have 2x equals 36. Okay, I look for a sign. There's no sign between the 2 and the x, so that means they're multiplying, and I need to do the opposite, which is divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and that gives me x, whoops, just the x over here, and 36 divided by 2 is 18. Okay, if we wanted to check that, we could. So all I'm doing is rewriting this equation that I started with, but replacing any x I see with an 18. So I have 2x, which I'm going to change to 18, minus 8 equals 28. Rules of order of operations tells me to start with multiplication. 2 times 18 is 36. Oops, not an equal sign. 36 minus 8 equals 28, and 36 minus 8 is 28, which is what I wanted. So that worked out. Okay, let's try another one. X over 3 plus 2 equals a negative 7. Okay, here my variable is the letter x again. And my goal is to get x by itself, okay? So that's how you always choose what to move. So I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign. And I want to get all these numbers over here on the left away from the x, so the x is by itself. Starting with the adding, subtracting, I notice that there's a plus 2. So I'm going to minus 2 on both sides. They go to 0 here, leaving me with x over 3 equals, and a negative 7 minus 2 more. I don't like subtraction, so I change it to add the opposite. So now I have a negative 7 plus a negative 2 is actually negative 9. X over 3 equals negative 9. Now the key to figure out is what operation's going on here. So you're wondering, what does this over sign mean? Okay, it actually means divide. X divided by 3 equals negative 9. So they're dividing, so we need to do the opposite. The opposite is multiplying. So I multiply this side by 3, multiply this side by 3, because I have to do stuff on both sides. And now I have that 3 over 3. So that's going to cancel, leaving me with x, bringing down my equal sign, and negative 9 times 3. First I start with 9 times 3 is 27, and a negative times a positive is negative. So your solution is negative 27. Okay, you can plug that back in. Negative 27 over 3 plus 2 equals negative 7. We always, order of operations tells us to start with multiplying and dividing. So negative 27 divided by 3 is actually a negative 9. Bring the rest down. Negative 9 plus 2 equals negative 7. Negative 9 plus 2 is a negative 7 equals negative 7. So we solved it correctly. At this time, if you'd like to pause and complete section 2, you can do that. If not, continue on with the video. Alright. Section 3 is equations where the variable is on both sides of the equal sign. Okay, so we notice that we have p minus 4 over here equals negative 9 plus 6p. We're going to draw our line down the equal sign. And we notice we have variables on both sides. The variable here is the p. So we want to first of all get all of our p's on the same side. You can choose the 6p or the regular p. Either way works. I like when my variable's on the left, so I'm going to move the 6p. They're doing plus 6p, so I'm going to minus 6p on both sides. And when I come over here, I want to make sure I'm minusing it below the p, so the terms are alike. Negative 4 minus 6p doesn't make any sense, so we want to make sure we're under there. Okay? P minus 6p, I know there's an invisible 1 in front of this, so I actually have 1 minus 6p, which gives me negative 5p. Bring the rest of the equation down, and this had canceled or gone to 0. Okay? Now I'm back in those problems that we did in section 2 with all my variables on the same side. So I'm going to start with my addition and subtraction. I have a minus 4. I need to do the opposite, so I need to add 4 to both sides. I have negative 5p equals negative 5. Negative 5p equals negative 5. There's no sign between the negative 5 and p, so that means they're multiplying. So I need to divide by negative 5. Giving me p to equal 1. Okay, let's check to see that, make sure. So I think p equals 1. So when I look at this equation, anywhere I see a p, I'm going to replace it with a 1. So I have 1 minus 4 equals negative 9 plus 6 parentheses 1. Okay, order of operations tells me to start with multiplying, which I have 6 times 1 here. That gives me 6. Negative 9 plus 6 equals 1 minus 4. Now I can do my adding and subtracting. 1 minus 4 is a negative 3. And negative 9 plus 6 is a negative 3. So that checked out too. Okay, we just want to make sure once we plug our variable in, they do equal each other. Oh, not yet. One more. Alright. Last one on this video, and then you're on your own. Negative x plus 3 equals 5x plus 13 minus 4x. Okay, here the variable is x. I notice that I have lots of x's, so I'm going to draw my equal sign, or draw my line down my equal sign so I can make sure I do things on both sides, and I'm going to start. This time I'm going to start over here on the left. I have this negative x. I know there's an invisible 1 there, because 1 times anything is itself. So I'm going to put that there. And I want to move that to the other side. So the opposite of negative 1 is positive 1. So I want to add 1x to both sides. And when I come over to the right, I have the choice. Do I want to add under the 5 or do I want to add under the negative 4? I'm going to choose the 5. Either one that you want, you just need to make sure that they're alike. You can't do it under the 13 because there's no x on the 13. Cancels out, leaves me with 3. I have 6x here plus 13 minus 4x. Alright, so I have 1 less x now. That helps me. I'm going to move something else now. I'm going to try moving this 13. So they were adding 13, so I need to do the opposite, which is subtract 13. Okay, 3 minus 13 is a negative 10. Over here I have left 6x, this canceled, and a minus 4x. Alright, I'm getting closer. If I look here, I can combine my like terms. I have a 6x minus 4x. So I have 6x's minus 4x's gives me 2x's left. Equals negative 10. And now the ultimate goal is obviously get that variable by itself, so we're trying to get that x by itself. So I notice that there's no sign between the 2 and the x, so that must mean they're multiplying. So I'm going to divide by 2. And I get a negative 5 on this side. And those cancel, just giving me an x here. So my x equals negative 5. So let's plug that in. I'm going to go through my equation, and anytime I see an x, I'm going to put a negative 5. So my equation started with a negative sign, and then I saw an x, so I have a negative 5 plus 3 equals 5, and then I saw an x, so I put a negative 5 there, plus 13. This isn't working. Let me write it bigger. Negative sign, negative 5, plus 3 equals 5. I see an x, so I put a negative 5, plus 13, minus 4. I see an x, so I put a negative 5. Order of operations tells me to start with multiplication. 5 times negative 5 is negative 25. And I have, I'm going to add the opposite here. I don't like those minus signs. A negative 4 and a negative 5, I'm going to leave this, is a positive 20. Okay. On this side, these two negative signs next to each other become plus signs. So I have 5 plus 3. Okay. Now I've done all of my multiplication and division. I can go through and do my addition and subtraction. 5 plus 3 is 8. Negative 25 plus 13. That gives me a negative 12 plus 20. I still have 8 over here. Negative 12 plus 20 gives me 8. So I've solved it correctly. Okay. Try the rest of your worksheet at home and on your own, and I'm excited to see how you do. Thanks for listening.